What's good, YouTube? Masex back with another video, and today we're looking at Mel Kiper's recently released big board. We're going to split this up in two parts, top 25, but today we're going to do the top 10 starting at number 1, working our way to number 10. I know it's been a little bit of a while. I've actually been working a lot with my crew on the podcast episodes, and really we're just chopping it up, talking about all types of sports. So if you haven't already taken a look at that, go ahead and hop in for a little bit, comment. Definitely, we're always open for debate in the comment section. But back to this video, it's about that time, and we're going to be going over a lot of rankings, positional rankings coming up here in the next few months, looking at top quarterbacks, running backs, corners, etc. Be on the lookout for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe for your support. We're almost at 1K, and I deeply appreciate that. But man, I'm tired of talking about all that. I'm ready to get into this big board. Very exciting, and without further ado, let's get to it. All right, the recently released big board, we're going to start at number 1, and at number 1 we got Travis Hunter, wide receiver, cornerback out of Colorado, listed at 6'1", 185 pounds. If you're a fan of college football, or even if you're a casual of college football, you know who Travis Hunter is. Honestly, one of the best players I've ever witnessed. It's a debate. Is he going to be a receiver? Is he going to be a corner? It wouldn't surprise me. He's playing on both sides of the ball at the next level. Bonafide top 5 pick. You look at some mock drafts, he is the number 1 pick. To me, without a doubt, the best player in college football. Him and Ashton Jeanty are going head to head for that Heisman Trophy winner, which personally makes me happy because I'm tired of quarterbacks winning everything. But as a corner, Travis Hunter, and mind you, he's playing every snap on offense essentially. He's still lining up against every team's number 1 wide receiver. He's very silky smooth. He's very instinctive. He makes spectacular catches. And if you're a fan of NCAA, you got the rating for spectacular catch. He's made some nasty catches, even for the interceptions. Can mirror the corner, has top end speed, has agility. Everything you want in a corner, that's Travis Hunter. He has the pedigree, number 1 guy according to 24/7 back in his class. Started at Jackson State with Deion Sanders, followed him to Colorado, which gave him a better platform to guard better players, and he's still done nothing but show that he's one of the best players in college football, and this year, he is the best player in college football. Next at number 2, we got Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan, listed at 6'2", almost 205 pounds. So really good size out of the gate. Junior year's been hampered by injuries. He's been out with a turf toe injury. Still managed pretty early on to get 2 interceptions, both returned for a touchdown. Will Johnson going into the season, I think, was 1 or 2, depending on what site you went on as far as cornerbacks. Mel Kiper has him as the 2nd best player in the entire draft, and that's for good reason. Quarterbacks don't throw to him. Stats don't necessarily do justice sometimes for cornerbacks. Will Johnson is an example of that. Really big physical size, frame, can guard the bigger X receivers as well. Mimics receivers very well, very fluid. He's honestly what you want in a future CB1 for your organization for at least 5 to 10 years minimum. And he's that rare blend of size, speed, athleticism. He's another guy I can very well see go in the top 10. Kind of depends on the injury and how long that hampers him. I think he'd still solidify top 10 placing in the draft next April. At number 3, Mel Kiper has Abdul Carter, edge rusher out of Penn State, at about 6'3", 259 pounds. And Abdul Carter is very intriguing. Transition from linebacker to more of that quote-unquote outside linebacker / edge rusher, whatever you want to call it. More scheme dependent based on the name of it. But Abdul Carter getting after the passer, 8 sacks, 2 forced fumbles at the time of this recording. You project him becoming an elite edge rusher at the next level. It's more of a projection piece in a sense compared to production. Like I said, making that transition from linebacker to edge rusher. He's probably going to boost his stock most likely at the combine, at his pro day, because he is one of those rare specimens, size, speed, athleticism. And he's got the production this year. Like I said, 8 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. Very well could be the top edge rusher to be drafted next year. All right, at number 4, we have Mykel Williams, defensive end / edge rusher from the University of Georgia, listed at 6'4", 265 pounds. And Mykel Williams definitely flashes when you watch him. Now, the production is not there. He's definitely another projection piece, even more so than Abdul Carter former 5-star guy, has the pedigree, coming from Georgia, and the NFL loves Georgia defensive players. So far, 3 sacks at this time of the recording. Production isn't necessarily there, though we do know, especially the last few years, you can't just count the stats for Georgia defenders in particular. And Mykel Williams, when you watch him on tape, even when you watch him live, you see the flashes. You see somebody that could become an elite pass rusher at the next level. You want him to put it all together, can play the run. You want to see that consistency, because if not, he will be an overdrafted edge rusher that we see all the time that at best will be on the field only on third downs as a pass rush specialist. So the potential for Mykel Williams definitely presents more than just a pass rush third down specialist, but that consistency isn't there, and he is going to need some time to develop, I feel. And he's going to have to go to the right scheme, the organization that's going to invest in him to become that elite pass rusher that he flashes from time to time on film. But you can't teach 6'4", 265 and a guy that can fly around like Mykel Williams can. All right, moving on to Mel Kiper's number 5 prospect, and that's Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. Now, Mason Graham is the opposite of Mykel Williams. I feel you know what you're getting. You're getting an interior defensive lineman that's going to put his hand in the dirt and wreak havoc at that 3-tech position. 3-techs, I'd say, over the last 7, 8, 9 years have definitely grown in stock and value. Every defensive coordinator wants a 3-tech that can wreak havoc and get in the backfield. I do feel he's a top 5 recruit, so I agree with Mel Kiper. I do feel Mykel Williams was a little too high, but Mason Graham, the best defender on Michigan's defense last year, in my opinion, in 2023. Strong, relentless, has a motor, looks like he loves the game, and at the end of the day, his production is there. And if you watch the tape, and always, you can't just look at stats for interior defensive linemen as well, but this guy pretty much has everything you want in the pass and in the rush. At 6'3", 320 pounds is what he's listed at. All right, moving on to number 6, we got Kelvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle out of Texas. Now, Kelvin Banks Jr., in a way, is Mel Kiper's number 1 offensive player on this big board, because Travis Hunter, as we know, plays both sides. Kelvin Banks is the highest ranked pure offensive player. Now, some places you might actually see him just listed as an offensive lineman rather than an offensive tackle. And the main thing is the arm measurements isn't the most desirable, and I can see a lot of GMs and whatnot maybe projecting him more as an interior offensive lineman. Me personally, he's more than capable playing left tackle and protecting the blind side of the quarterback. Very fluid, good in the run, good in pass pro, has natural leverage from what I'm able to see when he's face to face with an edge rusher. Sometimes can struggle with foot speed, an edge rusher that's really quick off of the edge, but a lot of times you see that from a tackle anyways. Sometimes run blocking can be a little inconsistent with his hand placement, which leaks a lot of power when it comes to driving that defender off of the ball. But all in all, I think Kelvin Banks is the consensus number 1 tackle at this point. So most likely I do see him as a top 10 pick in April's draft coming up. Number 7, we're moving to another offensive player, and that's Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado, listed at 6'2", around 215 pounds. Shedeur Sanders, he's also my number 1 quarterback in this year's draft. I've been high on him since about the midway mark of last year's season in 2023. This year, definitely upgrades on the offensive line, receiving core, and the running game has been a lot better. Still doesn't have a very good line to work with, but even still, there's been times where he's had enough time to throw the ball, but he does hold on to it a little bit too long at times. And in the NFL, that can really get you in trouble. Now, Shedeur Sanders, especially short and intermediate, deadly accurate. He looks like CJ Stroud, in my opinion, in the short to intermediate passing game. Has good arm strength, not elite arm strength. Can definitely push the ball, but he's definitely not a CJ Stroud in that regard, or a Josh Allen or Cam Newton, somebody that can just freely chuck it 60 plus. He's not an Anthony Richardson, but the accuracy is dead on. For me, he reminds me of Steve McNair. Is his head in the game sometimes, his attitude or whatnot? You may hear that. You may hear that leading up to the draft, but Shedeur Sanders, I think in what is deemed as a weak QB class, I do think that he would be the quarterback that becomes a perennial starter and even an all-pro at some point. I think he's that good. All right, at number 8, we have Nick Skeleton, defensive end out of Texas A&M, formerly at Purdue. Knew him very well in the Big Ten as an IU guy. Watched him destroy us a little bit, a couple years there. But now Texas A&M, he's in the SEC, and he's not doing anything less than what he was doing in the Big Ten. He honestly wouldn't surprise me if he's the number 1 defensive lineman drafted. He could very well be a top 10 pick. The production's there. The size at 6'3", 285 pounds. Probably will lose about 10 pounds, 10, 15 pounds to have a good combine to boost his stock. Maybe even solidify a top 10 placing in the draft next year. Very strong, very physical, can play the run. He has the long arms. Plays very aggressively. That allows him to shed blocks very well as well. And I like defensive linemen, particularly edge rushers or defensive ends that play the run as well as they play the pass. And he is one of those rare trait 280-pound guys that could play both inside and outside. Mel Kiper's number 9 prospect on his big board is safety Malachi Starks out of Georgia, listed at 6'1", 205 pounds. And Malachi Starks impressed me, I'll say, 2 years ago for a championship Georgia team as a true freshman getting starter snaps. So he's been a 3-year starter for an elite defense. This year, statistically and as well as on the film, isn't having as high of a year as projected in comparison to his sophomore year, which he had 3 interceptions. True freshman year with 2. This year, only 1 interception to the point of this recording. But he's everything you want in a safety. Willing hitter, very instinctive when the ball's in the air. I mean, honestly, I personally think he could play corner as well. And that's mainly because he is fluid. He has the overall athleticism that you want to see. And he's very versatile. He could play nickel, corner, or safety, I feel. All right, and number 10, the last prospect in this video, part 1, is Ashton Jeanty. He's out of Boise State, a running back. And of course, the value of running backs infamously talked about over the last 10 years or so. The value of running backs have tanked overall in comparison to back in the 2000s and before. And you don't see too many running backs in the first round. This year, that's going to happen. Ashton Jeanty is going to be a top 25 pick in my opinion. I love his compact build because he's 5'8", 5'9". He's listed at 215 pounds. He's a bowling ball and he plays like it, but he has the speed of someone that's maybe 10, 15 pounds lighter than he is at the same height. At the time of this recording, already has over 2,000 yards and 2,062 yards. Over 7 yards a carry, 27 rushing touchdowns. Now he has 18 catches, which to me, in a college system like where he's at, that's really good. And when you're almost getting a first down every time you touch the ball, you really don't need to pass the ball that much, if we're being honest. He has everything you want. He's one of those once every couple years type of running backs. A Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley. He's the number 1 clear-cut running back in this class. The only question is, how high does he go? Can he reach top 15 like a Jahmyr Gibbs? Could he even crack the top 10 like a Bijan Robinson or a Saquon Barkley, Leonard Fournette? He's that good. It really just comes down to, does the NFL value what he brings at the table? All right, there you have it. This is part 1 through 10, Mel Kiper's big board for the 2025 draft. Next video's coming and dropping very soon. As I mentioned, the positional videos will also be coming, and these are my rankings for every position leading up to the NFL draft. If you're a college football fan, this is definitely a fun time to be alive, as I like to say. And if you made it this far in the video, I deeply appreciate it. If you haven't already, definitely like and subscribe. More videos to come. Join the family. Definitely also supports this channel as well, and I appreciate that. So I'm actually getting a little hungry, so I'm about to go eat something. But I'll see y'all in the next video.